If you like this video, make sure to subscribe to Downfall Network for more cool content.
What's up, everybody? This is Miller with Thralls of Metal. You may remember me from the previous album review that we did before. They backed the beer truck up, my friends, and brought me in here. So I will be making a presence here in the future. We got a couple ideas for things, but subscribe, hit those notifications, that way you find out what we got cooking, baby. So a little bit about me. I've been in music for probably over 20 years now, on and off playing guitar, different bands. I did a lot of recording of bands back in the day. That's how it got me through college, basically. I had a mobile unit. I would go around and record these places. Music has been a part of my life for a long time, even going back to 5th grade when I got that first instrument in my hand. It was a stand-up bass. The orchestra director came in for the junior high and was like, "Hey, any of you guys want to play music?" And I'm like, I don't know. But then she brings out this giant fucking thing. I'm like, oh, what is that? That sounds awesome. You can play Jaws on that? Sign me up. I'm sold. I don't care how heavy that thing is. I don't care how much of a pain in the ass it is to put on the bus. I'm gonna play that thing, and I'm gonna play that Jaws thing, and that's what I did. And this is actually funny. It got the director. She quit because I would just give her so much shit. See, I had one director, loved her, and so I would be sitting there. She'd be in the class. She'd come in. She'd be like talking about what we're doing or whatever, and Miller, knock it off. Sorry. And then she'd get mad, and she just left. And eventually, yeah, she did quit. I feel bad now, but you know, I was a dick in junior high. Sorry. Mostly now, I do a lot of video stuff. I don't play as much as I used to. Like I said, I play guitar in a lot of bands. Most of that was in metal. I played drums in a death metal band for about 8 months. That was awesome because the guy I didn't have the drum set. This dude had just the death metal Neil Peart kit from hell. It was just fucking awesome. And it had 2 Tama 24x24 birch kicks separate, 2 big ass things separate, toms to the walls, cymbals just galore. It was awesome. It was a great experience. It got me, I lost a little weight, just constant, you know, running, sprinting the whole time. It's crazy. My music in terms of listening and stuff came, you know, from my parents, as most people. I didn't have a lot of money, so I was kind of stuck with what I had available to me from, you know, like my grandma's house, her vinyl collection. That really got me into vinyl and the love of vinyl. And, you know, I went from like listening to 8-tracks, you know, back when I was, you know, 4 or 5, you know, getting my ass whooped for messing with the 8-track player, you know, popping those cassettes in wrong or whatever, and my grandma took it out. But that moved to vinyl, and then I listened to, like I said, whatever pretty much my parents had. So my dad was Leonard Skinner, Allman Brothers, Zeppelin, a little Sabbath, ZZ Top, which is still one of my favorite bands. My mom, however, she liked Kiss, but she was the one that, I guess, forced pop music, top 40 stuff on me. You know, Mariah Carey, Bobby Brown, Ace of Base back in the day, Michael Bolton. She listened to Kenny G for a while. So I have a wide range of stuff that I like, even to this day. You know, even I've moved predominantly into like a metal thing, but I don't focus just on that. I do listen to other things. Right before this transition into, you know, seeking out, carving my own musical path into what I was into, right before that, it was Vanilla Ice, MC Hammer, Boyz II Men. You know, I mean, Vanilla Ice, though, what can you say about the guy? He's extreme. He rocks the mic like a vandal, lights up the stage, and if you need to get away when the police are on the scene, he's the guy. It wasn't until my cousin Brent showed me a little album called The Downward Spiral, which isn't my choice for this band, but it was what got me into Nine Inch Nails and made me a forever fan. I heard Closer first, and honestly, it became my least favorite song of that album, which I think is saying something because it is a good song. It's just overplayed. Heresy was the song that really got me into Nails and really looking into everything else. And then I found this album. So this was the first album with Interscope. He was with TVT Records for Pretty Hate Machine. He was over in Cleveland, actually, not too far from us. Scrubbing toilets, man. Scrubbing toilets, mopping floors during the day to get studio time at night to do Pretty Hate Machine by himself. The man is a genius. He really is. And he's got the accolades, the awards, the Grammys to show it. Nine Inch Nails is my number 2 band all time. But Broken, when I listened to this one, this is the defining transition between the bullshit I was listening to and my beginning stages of musical realization, I guess, if you want to call it that. Happiness and Slavery. Nick, I'm sorry, you're gonna have to edit this again. It was such a mind fuck. I mean, it really was. There's no other way you could say it, and it just totally wrapped my brain around this twisted fucking tree, and it was perplexing and thought-provoking in a weird way. And then I heard the other songs on here. Opinion, the starting is leads you into Wish, which is just a fantastic song. And live, dude, that song live is one of the most intense fucking things you'll see. I've seen Nails 4, 5, 10, I don't know. Every time they come around, I'm there. But Wish live, you gotta see it. Look it up. I mean, it does some justice live. But you gotta be there, man. It's just crazy. One of the best shows you'll ever see is Nine Inch Nails. I don't care. It's CD quality. Trent Reznor's on it. The dude knows what he's doing. And the funny thing about this is I loved the fact that the last 2 tracks were on 98 and 99. I loved it because at that point there was a lot of cassettes and CDs and stuff that would just, that last song would just be like 13 minutes long, and then you get to like that last 2 minutes and you got a song, and who the hell wants to sit through that? So I think Trent was like, oh, we're just gonna see how much this counter goes up. We're just gonna rock that baby to 99. I thought it was hilarious. And I looked it up on Google to, cause I'm horrible. Future, horrible with song names, all that stuff. I'm not good at it. Even Pantera, my favorite band of all time, I'm still like, I don't know what that song is, but I can hum the whole thing, start to finish, solo, everything, every instrument, I can hum it all. But yeah, I'm really bad at song titles, but Physical and Suck, the last 2 songs on this album, were actually some of the better ones on the album, and I feel bad for the people that didn't know that little secret where you all the way to 99. This led me into finding a band which we have here. It'll be here, not here, in my hand. Pop Will Eat Itself. I can't think of a lot of people that even have mentioned this band to me. They were kind of short-lived. They're out of the UK. They got signed when Trent went to Interscope. Interscope basically said, hey, what do you want? We know you got a bad deal there over at TVT, or you're not happy with it. What do you want? Because they saw the potential there. I know they did the Pretty Hate Machine. So Trent was like, I want nothing. So they're like, oh, okay, nothing. He got his own record label, Nothing Records. Pop Will Eat Itself, Nothing Records. I didn't know that until later, after I discovered them down the road. Kick the Kill, RSVP. Those songs are awesome. What got me into PWI was PlayStation 1 game called Loaded. Fantastic game, really cool game. Pop Will Eat Itself was on the soundtrack. Those 2 songs were on the soundtrack for that game, and I'm playing the game, and I got this dude with the gun and the teddy bear, and I'm shooting shit and this music, and I'm like, damn, these guys are awesome. I think Trent may have had something to do with the production on it, but I couldn't find a lot of information just because there isn't a lot. They're not around anymore. They're a very short-lived band. And I do recall, like, when I searched it up, there was some sort of weird ska, punk band, garage band that didn't sound very good that came up. That's not Pop Will Eat Itself, just to let you know. The first song, Ich bin ein Ausländer, hits you in the face. It tells you what's coming with the album, which translates to I am a foreigner in German. Awesome song. Fat Man, one of my favorite songs of all times. And I was a fat man. I think that's maybe why I liked it. Or, I listened to it. It's like, oh yeah, I can relate to this with the song title. And I jammed it, and it's just man, it's awesome. It talks about some really dark stuff involving like eating disorders and stuff, which is weird to say in a song, but it works in that one. Everything's cool. This song, I think, has one of the best breakdowns I've heard in anything. I don't know. It speaks to me, the tribalness of it, the just how it comes here and it just amps down and it stays here and then it boom shoots up to this really like just pounding like rhythm. Back in the day when I was in football, that was the song I would put on in the locker room before we would go out. And we get amped up, and no one on the football team ever was like, oh, this song's awesome. No one asked who the hell it was, but they'd always ask for that song. So, Alice in Chains. This got me into my grunge era. Alice in Chains, Nirvana, Pearl Jam, Stone Temple Pilots, Soundgarden, all the good stuff, from that era. Say what you want about Nirvana. I do like Nirvana. In Utero would be almost made the list on here, actually. But I listened to this more. I heard Heaven Beside You, and it just, oh man, it was just a magical song. It was so relaxing. It was like, when you listen to that, it's like, I don't know, your grandma just coming up on you in the porch and throwing a blanket over you and rubbing your back, and it's gonna be okay. That's what that song was like. Just total comfort. Lane Staley's vocals, just mesmerized by that dude, and I always loved the buttery layers that were created with both of their singing styles looped together. And I think it helped in the future. Unfortunately, when Lane passed, it was easier to transition for Jerry because he had already established those vocals under Lane stuff. But again, grind, heavy, just that started my love for the guitar and really a sound of guitar and the appreciation for the skill of composition and putting stuff together, and that led into the future when I started becoming a songwriter and stuff, and really layering guitars. The way Jerry Cantrell layered his guitars were very unique. What's his face from System of a Down, Darren, he took some nods from Jerry Cantrell. I know he did, even though in the interview, of course, he took credit because that's what he does. He layered his guitars, so he would record a guitar line, and that would be his bass line, his bass. He would record another one, that was his middle, this is his mid-high, this is his highs. So every notch in the EQ was a separate track, and that really made that tone full on a lot of these songs. He didn't do it on every song, but he did it where it needed. Alice in Chains, still one of my top bands all the time. Metallica, Master of Puppets. First listened to it in my grandma's car. She had this old Oldsmobile, Park Avenue or something. It was a big boat. Either way, it had one of the clearest sound systems in it I've ever heard. And to this day, I mean, that was like quality sound. I put the Black Album in, and I don't even remember where I got it, but I put it in, and man, I was just like, dude, this is badass, And then again, like with Nine Inch Nails, I went back and I was like, holy shit, they got better stuff? Master of Puppets is that better stuff. Again, I love Metallica, Black, and previous. Their latest effort, I actually enjoyed. Let's be honest, there was a big chunk of time where just Metallica was not doing it for me at all. I'd keep going back. I still listen to Master of Puppets. I still listen to Ride the Lightning. Kill 'Em All is an amazing album. And Justice for All is one of my favorites, but I do prefer to listen to the And Justice for Jason version, which is on YouTube. They kind of crank up that bass a little bit. I think it sounds way better, with the bass actually in the mix. Again, on this album, every song is ripping. There's not a bad one on here. I mean, The Thing That Should Not Be, awesome. Welcome Home Sanitarium, awesome. They're all awesome. This is a killer album, and it should be in anybody's collection if you're a metal fan. OZZY. It's about time, right? I get to some OZZY. Now, like I said before, my dad, a little bit of Black Sabbath in there, but I sought this out, specifically the song Perry Mason, and it was because of the show. I was actually a fan of that show. So it was the only show that we all watched together, all three of us, and that's what kind of, I don't know, it just has that nostalgia for me, I guess, and that's why I sought out the song. But the song is amazing. Totally kind of captivated by the guitar playing in it. Come to find out, Zakk Wylde. What's not to be captivated by that dude? He's a Just a beautiful specimen of a human being, that guy is. Really nice guy. Met him on a couple different occasions. I spent more time with his rhythm guitarist, Nick Cantonese, on a couple different occasions. So we actually went to White Castle in Detroit. We were at Harpo's, and White Castle's just down the street, and strength in numbers in that neighborhood, boys. Everything about this. Thunder Underground, that riff is just heavy, it's chunky. It got me into that kind of style of music, that heavy, chunky, groovy stuff that would really lead me into my next choices coming up here. You can really see that theme, I guess, to this. Rage Against the Machine, one of my favorite bands all time. I wish I could afford to go see them, but I can't. When I really got into vinyl and looking after vinyl, this was one of the albums that I really sought after first, this and Tool. I loved Zach vocals when I heard this. This was my summer jam, man. It was this and Sublime. It just brought, listening to it now brings back so many memories of just getting in the car and then just cruising with, total disregard of where we were or what time it was. We were just jamming and going for it. Killing in the Name Of, their big radio hit, which a lot of people know, but there's others on this album. I mean, the Enemy with Maynard, it's a fantastic song. Fistful of Steel, one of my favorite songs too on this album. I mean, really, it's just a really killer album. Brings back a lot of great memories in that time period for me. Korn, maybe surprising. Shouldn't be though, for this album. First four albums. This was a wake-up call in a lot of ways in terms of emotion in music, because this is pretty much all emotion. It was a total unique sound. The first song is like a slap. It's just intense. It's like do do do, and then just all this crazy, and this dude's like shouting nonsense at you, and you're just like, oh my god, what did I do? And you're listening, and it's like, wow, this is like this grooves. It's got a really cool sound. It all fits together. Ball Tongue, the bass is just jamming on that tune, man. I love the bass on that. The percussive nature of his bass playing really captivated me. Number 6, definitely offensive in this day and age, but a good song. And then you listen to it, and you listen to the context. It was really the anger in it, and the battle that he had in that with feeling lost and alone and not wanted. I wasn't in that situation, but I could appreciate the people that are in that situation, really sympathize with what they're going through, and that song spoke to me in that way. I almost kind of saw that stuff through other people that I knew. Super emotional band, really filled with emotion, this whole band is, but it just got old. It only goes so long. Not everyone wants to be mad and depressed all the time. Everybody needs that good friend in a bottle of pills type, just nonsense song, that just kind of, whatever. But still a great band. I still listen to this album. I still listen to Life is Peachy. I just listened to Fall of Leader. It's a really cool vinyl pressing too that I have that may be featured in something in the future. So next, definitely one of the bands that are in my top 5 all time, and really just for the first 3 albums. After this album, I don't care for a lot of Tool, especially the newest one. It's crazy, but it speaks to these first 3 albums, Opiate Undertow and this one, Anima. They're like probably 4, if I had to put a number on it, for just 3 albums. That speaks to those albums and how good they are. This album for me, kind of showed me that there is an experience to things in music and albums, and then the idea of back in the day, like with vinyl, especially in cassettes, it was really a story you were on, and the whole albums were made to be start to finish and listened to in a whole, and you get in this digital age where it's just this song and that song and that song and this song. This album made me appreciate the story as a whole and the composition as a whole album, how well it was put together. And actually, going back to my grandma again, my grandma had a big influence in my music. Really not in any way, because she never really showed me anything, if that makes sense, but she would just grab onto things that I had, and she would like them, and this was definitely it. She actually stole my copy of the cassette for this, ended up buying me another copy, and then buying another copy for herself because she burned out the damn tape. She loved Maynard's vocals. She was oh man, she was in love with that man. And if she would have been around today to find out he makes pretty kick-ass Hawaiian, I think the panties would have been off, boys. It's gross to say about my grandma. Speaking of panties coming off, typo negative. I was a big fan of the movie Mortal Kombat because I was a video game nerd and loved Mortal Kombat. So when the movie came out, I was like watching the movie. It was awesome. Christopher Lambert, Highlander's in it. Hell yeah, I'll watch that. Even though Raiden's typically an Asian character, but whatever. That soundtrack was killer. It was slamming, man. They had a lot of cool stuff. KMFDM had a good song in there. Gravity Kills, Napalm Death was on there, and Typo Negative. This is where I heard the band was on Mortal Kombat soundtrack. But again, sought them out. Sought this album out. This is a classic album. This is by far my favorite Typo album. And honestly, the only album of theirs I really go back to. I wouldn't call myself an overly huge Typo fan. I'm an overly huge fan of this album. Christian Woman, Black Number One, Summer Breeze. I mean, it goes on. But like I said, this is the only one I got into to the extent that I did. Also on that Mortal Kombat soundtrack was Fear Factory. They had a pretty badass song on that. And it was totally different than what they typically do that I found out. I heard them on there, and it wasn't until later, because I think this album was later. So Mortal Kombat 95. So I was jamming that song on that on that soundtrack, and then I saw this in a record store. I was like, oh, that's that one band with that song that I like on the soundtrack. So I just picked it up out of a whim, just bought it, and I'm totally glad I did. This kicked me in the damn teeth. It was unlike anything, just the shock of it. And the first song really is perfect because it's a shock. Raymond Herrera is just a machine on the drums. His drumming style is totally unique. Dino Sarzares, for as basic as his guitar playing is, everything fit together and it gelled together into this really great album. I'm not the biggest Burton fan. Sometimes if I'm listening to a lot of Fear Factory, his voice grates on me a little bit, especially the singing stuff. I don't know why. I take it in snippets, basically. In this album, it's super effective. The combo of these guys and their sounds and what they're going through, it just, everything fit about this album. The production on it is top notch. Saw some behind the scenes footage on how they did that, and they were like, they were going in and like zooming in on just a little track and moving just a little snare hit here and there and just matching everything on these lines, and boom, 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 boom. And it shows everything is very tight on this album, which I do appreciate. Speaking of another just solid, tight album, and you know why, because it's Terry Date. Terry Date is just a master producer. He did the Great Southern Trendkill. He did a bunch of stuff with Pantera. Terry Date's the man that shows in this album. White Zombie, Astro Creep 2000, Songs of Love, Destruction, and other synthetic delusions of the electric head for the full album title. So with this album, honestly, the drums, everything is pretty cookie cutter basic, pretty standard, and there's nothing like totally wowing, but everything fits. And the placement of the riffs, the placement of the sound effects, the voice, the vocals, the feel, the groove, everything just fit perfectly to make this just supercharged album that I listen to on a very regular basis all the time still. This is an album like if I'm want to get lost in drumland, I'll get on my kit and I'll throw this on and I'll just jam to it, and do my own thing. It's very easy to jam to. I love Rob Zombie, and that was like a roller coaster with Rob Zombie. I loved Rob Zombie, and then Hellbilly Deluxe came out and I was like, oh, that's awesome, and then it kind of went down. And, then I had a new appreciation, a new love for him in the movies and stuff like that. So Grease Paint Monkey Brains is a badass tune, man. I love that. And it's heavy, it's heavy sounding. It's like this ambient thing going on, and then it's heavy. And I think Rob was like, okay, what's the heaviest goddamn thing I can think of? Drowning in Lead. Drowning in Lead. Think about that. Drown in Lead. How heavy is that? You can't get any heavier with a lyric. Drowning in Lead. Think about that. I wouldn't want to drown in lead, that's for damn sure. Another great album, Sepultura Roots. My buddies back in high school got me onto this album. I remember exactly where it was too. We were in a drive-through at McDonald's, and they were like, "Dude, you ever heard of Sepultura?" No, I never heard of Sepultura. I put it on. I was like, "Oh my god, this is amazing! This is great." The tribalness of it, you know, and I also associate this album too with Blood Rooted, which I really enjoy. Blood Rooted. To me, the only way to listen to Propaganda is live from Blood Rooted. That version is just awesome. That version that they have on there, Biotech as Godzilla, is fantastic. Everything gelled. It really got me into appreciating kind of like pockets of grooves and pockets of things. If you're a songwriter, you kind of know what I mean. You know, sitting into these little groove pockets and riding them a little bit. It really got me thinking and brainstorming on ways that I could incorporate and how to slide into these awkward pockets when you're creating music and stuff. They did a lot for my songwriting. Slayer, God Hates Us All. Now I know this isn't like a total favorite of most Slayer fans. As I had mentioned with the OZZY thing, that type of sound that I was into fit with this, and this got me into Slayer. This was the album I listened to, and it's still my favorite. I mean, I love a lot of Slayer. I'm a big Slayer fan. I've seen them multiple times. Bloodline, I really like the song still to this day. Exile is great. All the songs jam, and that's what I like. I was really into just jam. You know, I didn't want anything overly complicated. I had a bunch of other stuff going on between all the extracurriculars, trying to do music, and you know, I didn't need to be in some sort of calculated mind while I'm listening to music. I just needed it to jam, throw it on, and jam. And this is another band that jams, and when I heard this, I was like, man, that's like if Skeletor had a badass metal band. That's what I heard. I heard Skeletor singing this, and it's my love of He-Man. But Jeff Walker is one of my favorite vocalists. It may not be for everybody, but I just love it, man. I love him. I'll say it. He's a nice guy. I met him I saw him with the original lineup, minus Ken Owens, of course, but Michael Amott was there, and I saw them at Peabody's. Awesome show. I was really, really lucky. I felt really lucky and grateful to be able to see that with that lineup, the band with this album. Michael Amott, still to this day, one of my favorite guitarists. I think he's fairly underrated. You know, obviously he's not Zach, or you know, he doesn't have that. I don't know. He has an identifiable sound to me. You know, when I hear a guitar playing, I can say, okay, that sounds like something he would do. And another thing I loved about this album was the artwork really spoke to me, and come to find out, I know why now, because I'm a big H.R. Geiger fan. The artwork came from that man right there. Whole album, start to finish. There's really not a bad song on this album. Machine Head, Burn My Eyes. I'm a big Machine Head fan. It's been on and off. It was on with this album. This album, The More Things Change, were good. I listen to those all the time, especially this one. Death Church was a fantastic song, and I jammed that all the time. I tried to recreate everything on guitar and stuff, and never could figure out why I couldn't figure it out. And, you know, they tune differently. I listened to this album, and, you know, old and Davidian, and I'm like, man, this is like Metallica, but better. Because Metallica really wasn't doing anything impressive, and this scratched that itch. I've seen them many times. I got to see these guys at a bar that sat, I don't know, maybe 400 people, and that's like counting the patio. And that was a few years ago. They did a short circuit of like small bar venues, and I got to see them. I was right up close. It was a great experience. But again, one of the things I do like about this band is seeing them live is Rob Flynn always seems like he's having a blast when he plays. He legitimately loves playing in front of people. Now, whether that's a face or not, I don't know. I've heard things of he's can be difficult to work with, which is why he's kind of had a revolving door of bandmates. But I think when it comes to his fans, he really, truly appreciates them, and I appreciate that. Another one. Pissing Razors. Man, I don't hear about this band enough because they're not around anymore. But you should have them in your collection. You really should. Pissing Razors was way before their time. Their grooves were infectious. They really influenced my writing and how I structured things. And again, going with grooves, short-lived, way before their time for sure. Getting into some of the heavier stuff now, my transition has changed. Morbid Angel, I saw these guys live now. We're at the show. We're up front. The guys are setting up the guitar, setting up the bass, and sound checking. Sound check drums. Guy comes up, he's fumbling around, tweaking a few things here and there. He sits down, he's like, check drums. He's okay. All right, do the full kit. Right. Just a machine gun and assault blast. It was like a dude had a Gatling gun, just pounding us in the front. It was just him. He was sound checking the drums, and come to find out, it's fucking Pete Sandoval is setting up his own drums, sound checking his own drums, and just brutally assaulting those drums. I mean, beating those damn things. It was crazy. I just didn't think that a human could do that much, that precise, and fell in love with Morbid Angel. Again, this is the first and second song. I always liked that transition. It was kind of drawn out, but a lot of death metal stuff is that kind of opening ambient thing. They really like drawing shit out like that. But this one, even though as choppy as it was, because it was like pretty much like boom, on and off, like really switching, but I don't know why. I think maybe I like that intro because I know what's coming. I know that second song, Summoning Redemption, is just one of my favorites. He Who Sleeps, Ageless, Still I Am. There's just a lot of really good tunes on here. This really got me into death metal and really opened up my eyes to a lot of different stuff that I wouldn't have sought out normally. And this band became one of my favorites, and that came from the Morbid Angel tree, if you will. I chose The Bleeding because Cannibal Corpse, there's like 3 or 4 albums that I really love, and it's hard to pick one. I would say since this is my teens, top 20 of my teens, I stuck with that time frame. But Kill, Wretched Spawn, Red, Black, Red, Blood, Cannibal Corpse. Either way, I got, again, a vinyl that I have. I saw it immediately and bought it. The day it came out, I bought that album because I just knew it was going to be killer. Because Cannibal Corpse is killer. Kill, another one, that album. I love that album. That's probably my favorite, I would say. But song titles, number 3. Let's say we got number 3 is really good. I really like the transition. Number 2 and number 7 is, we can't name any of this. But number 3, number 2, number 7, to name a few. Pickaxe Murders. We can say Pickaxe Murders. That's not even my favorite song on here, but at least it's a title I can say. So you got Pickaxe Murders, The Bleeding. So this is probably my favorite death metal band. You know, I don't get too much into like the subcategories of stuff and death metal and grindcore and hardcore and death doom metal, death chair, wooden, whatever. Metal, death metal. This is it. Seeing these guys live, Corpse Grinder is amazing. Another band now, archenemy, Wages of Sin. I originally got into archenemy, or heard them. I say not got into because I'm definitely not into them after I heard the album, but I heard them with Stigmata. I did not like Johann's vocals. They were just monotone and whatever, but Let the Killing Begin. I love that song. I still do. I still listen to that. I actually took it out of that album and put it under with this as the last track in my digital files. But yeah, I couldn't get past his monotone. Let the killing begin. It's just whatever. But it works for that song. I gave them a second chance because of a friend, and I put this in. I was like, wait a minute, that's not what I heard before. Who is this? Who is this angel that has come down to this band and made it better? And find out it's Angela. And man, what a singer, what an awesome chick. I got to see these guys with Slayer, and just a fantastic show. They killed it. On this album, I think it has one of the coolest intros. It really sets up everything, the transition, the intro into the song. It gives you what to expect with this album, and it doesn't hold any punches. It doesn't give you any surprises, but it's just solid all the way through. It's like dense 440 stainless steel, you know? It's just solid all the way through. I didn't put together that Michael Amott was in this band and was in Carcass, and I knew there was why I was drawn toward the guitars on this, and come to find out it was Michael Amott, and maybe it was because it just felt familiar, it sounded familiar. That could be it. Either way, archenemy, still a fan of him. I don't listen to him as much as I probably should, but I still go back to this album, and one or two others, but predominantly this album. I try and fit newer stuff in as much as I can, and my sporadic like bouts of, I don't know, classic rock or old school hip hop. I was just on a Snoop, Dre, Tupac, Biggie, Too Short, Juvenile thing for a little while there. Again, going back to, I appreciate all kinds of music and everything about this. Now, my last but not least, Reinventing the Steel, and my notes, Pantera. It's just Pantera. If you don't like Pantera and you're watching this show, what the fuck? Sorry, Nick. But that's the only words I can say, because Pantera's it. In my eyes, pound for pound, they're the best metal band there is. And I was fortunate enough to see them live. I was fortunate enough to see Dime, meet him. I got to hang out with him now. That Reinventing the Steel came out March 21st of 2000. So I was my junior year. It's the day after my birthday. That was the first album that I went out and I was waiting in line to get this album. Now, my favorite Pantera album is probably Trendkill, because I think it represents the gambit of what they're capable of and the whole spectrum that is the beauty of Pantera. So if I had to pick one, I guess I picked Reinventing the Steel because it kind of was that last leg of high school. It really represented a change in my life. And man, just a forever Pantera fan. Hands down favorite band all time. I'd say Nine Inch Nails number 2, but Dimebag, we went to the show, me and my buddy Bailey. We went up there, he was with Damageplan. Now this was, I'd say probably 7 months, 8 months before, you know, that happened in Columbus. We went to the Damageplan show. We got up in the morning, like, how much money you got? Well, I don't know, like $4. How much you got? I don't know, like $6? $10. $5, $8 in the gas tank and 2 double cheeseburgers. We're done. Get in the car, throw that $8 in there, stop at McDonald's, get a couple double cheeseburgers. On our way to Detroit we go with no tickets, no nothing. Just 2 broke ass dudes wanting to go up and meet Dime and Vinny and the guys. And we did. Dime came out with, I mean, I guess it's almost like stereotypical Dime. You hear, he came out with like this gallon thing of Crown, and he was like, hit this. And we just sat there, you know, and just hung out and talked for about, I'd say it was a good half hour. You know, thankfully it felt like an eternity, because I wanted it to last an eternity. I really did. Not in a creepy way, just he is my Elvis. You know, that dude was awesome. And for me to meet him, and he was beyond your expectations. You always saw the videos and you saw how cool he was and how interactive he was with fans and stuff, but there was no bar you could set for that guy that wouldn't be surpassed once you met him. So we started talking to him. His sound guy came out and he's like, Daryl, we gotta get to it. He's like, all right. He's like, hey, I better see you boys up front. I was like, I didn't want to disappoint him, and you know, even though I knew it didn't matter, you know, he wouldn't have probably looked. I don't know, it's Dime. But Dime would have. He would have, because he cared. We were like, well, you know, we're broke. We just came up here really to meet you, and we got to do that. So we really thank you for that, and give us time for that. And he's like, no. He's like, get these guys on my list. He's like, all right. Guy comes up. It was this guitar tech, and took our names down, and we're like, you know, what the hell just happened here? So we're in line up at Harpo's, in line, just giddy as schoolgirls, like just can't be more blown away from the fact that we are on Dimebag Darrell's guest list, and we're just gushing over it. And everyone around us is like, "What? These assholes?" They're, you know, we get up to the line, like, tickets? No. Our name, you know, Josh and Justin, we should be on Dimebag's list. Here you go, boys. Backstage passes, all it was awesome. The guy is fantastic. The Vinny was fantastic. At that show, I got to put away Vinny Paul's drum set. I got to touch his drum set and his things. It was amazing. The guys were fantastic. Pantera, hands down, favorite band. But that brings us to the 20. This video has probably been long enough. Nick's like, Jesus Christ, I got shit to do. What are you doing? I'll wrap it up. So thank you for listening to my banter. I will be here in the future. We got some things cooking. Make sure you hit the subscribe. Grind that bell, man. Hit that bell for those notifications so you can know when we got new segments coming up. I'm thinking about doing a vinyl thing maybe. Because I'm a big vinyl guy next to, obviously, the CD guy. So we may do some things in the future with that. But I'm here, boys. Until next time, subscribe, like, Thralls of Metal, Hail Scroop.